What is going on, everybody? It is I, Rye, with another Rise advice, new player advice, whatever you want to call them at this point, coming at you with 10 things that I wish I knew as a new player, or 10 common new player mistakes, whatever you want to call it. Basically, 10 things that I think if a new player knew right off the bat, they'll have a significant advantage over anyone else pretty much in the game. Before we start, like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the drill. Most of the people that watch our videos are not even subscribed. What is going on, boys? Hit that like, comment, subscribe. You know how it is. Hit the notifications because all those metrics help us know what kind of content you guys like and what we can provide for you in the future. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Number 1, or I guess number 10, these are going from 10 to 1, is least important to most important. Need to empty a box. Now, this is actually a good time now that Declan is out to kind of talk about this, but a lot of people, they go into boxes with the need to empty out everything in the box, even though they're really only looking for, you know, a certain something in the box and don't really need everything in there. So, for example, we go here into the DDD box. You can see that I have, if I go to cards you own, 3 of the DD Swirl Slime, but I only have 1 of the Malefic Stardust Dragon. This is because back in the day, I wanted to play DDD before the Structure deck came out and before Swirl Slime was available. There's no reason, if I go and play DDD, that I need to also go in and get like 3 Ancient Pixie Dragons, especially when most decks only play 1 Ancient Pixie Dragon if they play it to begin with. Things like Myskosaurus, for example, are also in here and are super important for certain Dino decks, so I can pick up, you know, 3 copies of that. But if I have a lot of these cards already, you know, I don't need to go in and pick up another Malefic Stardust. And I think a lot of people, when they go into a box, they get this kind of sunk cost fallacy going on, where they're like, oh, I'm so close to finishing out the box, let me just finish it out. You don't need to do that. You really don't need to do that. You can pick and choose what you want out of the box, and 99% of the time, you are going to walk away, you know, being totally fine. Next up, building half a deck and then switching to another. I see this all the time when it comes to new players. They will go and start purchasing a deck. Let's say, you know, they start with Harpies. They're like, okay, I started the game and people told me that Harpies are really good. I'm going to start building Harpies. And then they get like halfway through to Harpies. You know, they've got their 1 Channeler, 1 Harpist, 1 Perfumer, haven't gotten their Cyber Slash Harpy yet. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my god, DDD is coming out. Let me stop buying this and let me go purchase DDD, or let me go purchase Pendulum. And that is one of the worst things you can do for your account. Having 2 half-finished decks is not as good as having just 1 fully finished deck. Even if you wanted to switch to DDD after building your Harpies, for example, in this example, that's fine. Finish the Harpies first. Don't go and all of a sudden switch over once something new and shiny comes out. That is only going to give you 2 half-ass decks and not much reward out of that. So avoid doing that as much as possible. Number 8, blindly following YouTube decks. This is really any meme deck. I call them YouTube decks because that's primarily where you'll find them. You'll find them on YouTube. If you see someone streaming on Twitch or something like that, it's a little different because you can you can see all the wins, all the losses. But when people are showing off a deck, especially a deck that's meant more for fun, that's why whenever I show a deck that's more on the fun scale, I try to say, hey, this is fun. That's more been PDS lately. He's been showing you guys the Elements Unite and all those decks. He keeps saying this deck is for fun only. You know, only play this for fun. Don't play this as a serious deck. A lot of content creators are good at doing that. Sometimes some content creators are not good at doing that. But always, even if they are good at doing it, just keep in mind that decks that you find on YouTube will generally be cherry-picked. I got burned pretty badly on this. When I first started playing Duel Links, I built a lot. I spent a lot of money and I built a lot of decks. Purely off of what I found, content I found on YouTube, and that was probably my biggest money sink because I built the deck, it didn't end up being any good, and then I was just like, all right, well, you know, it's okay. The next deck will do better. Decks that you see on Twitch, like in tournaments and stuff like that, you see them also fail, so you can better gauge. Okay, well, I like how it's winning against X deck, but I hate how it's losing against Y deck. Not a deck for me at the end of the day. Next up, we have changing decks too often. This is different from building decks. This is when you've already built the decks and you are, let's say you have Blue Eyes, Harpies, and I don't know, Ancient Gear or something. And you are trying to hit King of Games. That's your goal, right? And you keep trying to win, but you keep getting like Legend 3, Legend 4, and then you drop back down to Legend 3. A lot of people are going to get that itch. Oh my god, Blue Eyes isn't working. Let me switch to Harpies. You know, that is when it really gets you, especially around KC Cup time. Switching decks too often because you're not doing well can cause you to tilt and start to do even worse. If your goal is to hit King of Games or to do well in KC Cup, try not to switch too often. When it's really not working, like you keep falling to like Legend 1, you know, and you can't climb out of Legend 1 anymore, then consider changing. But if you only drop like a rank or you drop a couple 100 DP, it's not worth switching up decks because then you might be in like Harpy mode in your brain, but you're playing Blue Eyes now, and now all of a sudden nothing is going right for you, and you're gonna feel even worse. You're gonna tilt even harder, and then it's just a downward spiral from then on. So don't change too often. Next up, we have free-to-play means only certain number of box runs. This is a common misconception where a lot of people are like, I'm free-to-play. That means I can only go through a main box or a mini box a set number of times because that's what free-to-play means in my mind. That isn't true, you know? Some people may define free-to-play as a certain set number of box runs, but that's not true. The only thing free-to-play means is that you don't spend money on this game and you're saving all your gems for certain power boxes, right? Free-to-play players, they're not going to be able to freely pick up things like Pendulum or Chronomaly, things that are not meta-defining, right? But if you're free-to-play, the best way to play this game is to save those gems until powerful boxes like Harpies come out, and then you invest however many gems you need to invest to get that powerful meta-defining deck. Regardless of how many runs you have to go through, you know, if the next main box comes out and it has 2 meta decks in it and triple Book of Moon available, and you'd have to go through it 3 times to get everything you wanted, even if that was the case, if it still gave 2 meta decks and Book of Moon, that is still free to play because it's not paywalled, it's not anything like that. Just because there's a lot of URs in it doesn't make it pay to win. As long as you're able to sufficiently save your gems, then you're fine. Now, there is an exception to it. You know, if you go too crazy, like there's 3, 4, 5 main boxes in a row, and they're all really, really good. You have to do 3 run-ofs. Yeah, then if you're free to play, you're not going to be able to do that. You just simply do not have the gem storage to do something like that. But for most people, whenever I see most people complain, I can't get X deck or Y deck because it's pay to win. In most scenarios, that isn't true. They're just not saving their gems appropriately. Next up, COG is the end-all, be-all. King of Games, I cannot stress this enough. I've stressed this so much on Twitch, and it still surprises me how many people are not aware of this. King of Games is not a big deal. It's absolutely not a big deal. It's not even the tutorial for competitive play. It has no impact on competitive play whatsoever. I would even argue that the tutorial for competitive play is the KC Cup, the normal KC Cups they have before the big KC Cups. That second stage is like the first time you'll really experience, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're not a part of community tournaments like the ones we host at DLE. Check the Discord, join in, let's go. King of Games, for most people, is a chore. If you're a brand new player, the first one's always going to be exciting. I'm not trying to take that away from you. Your first one's going to be exciting. You're going to be hyped that when you get it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually mean a whole lot. It's a very basic thing. Me personally, I have so many King of Games, I don't even know how many at this point. At this point, I'm making brand new accounts just to hit King of Games for the first time with no pay-to-win elements to the game. It really does not mean anything. It's not even an entryway to competitive. It's not even something that you would take into account when analyzing a competitive meta game, just because of the overwhelming number of unoptimized decks that enter the King of Games scene. So, King of Games, not the end-all, be-all. Don't focus too much on that. That is not the primary focus that you should have on there. It's not the pilot, it's the deck. I've said this a couple times on stream. Just because you copied a deck does not mean you immediately are able to COG or do well in tournaments with it. You also have to actually learn the deck. Surprise, surprise. Some decks, especially some of the ones we're getting now, are extremely easy to pilot. But there is going to be a time where decks are going to be, a little harder to pilot, and you'll misplay with decks. And don't beat yourself up when you misplay, because that is how you're going to learn, There are people right now who are hitting King of Games with Trimids, Ritual Beast, Witchcrafter, but these are not decks that I'd recommend to a new player because you guys aren't going to know how to pilot those decks. And if you don't know how to pilot those decks, you're not going to hit King of Games with them. You're not going to do well in tournaments with them, And it's better to, if you want to play those styles of decks, to first learn them through watching streams, through watching YouTube, before purchasing them, and then figuring out, oh, wow, this is way too complicated. This ain't what I signed up for. And then you end up quitting the game at that point. Next up, investing, especially when we're talking about anime decks. Again, DDD coming very relevant in this topic here. As we all know, there is a DDD structure deck coming out now, as well as the mini box as well. And if you invested, like I did, in the DDD main box with all the other stuff, you essentially wasted your time, because DDD was never meta the entire time it was out. And if it is going to be meta, then this will be the first time it has a chance to be meta game and actually good. So I essentially just wasted a bunch of gems and money purchasing things like DDD, or even purchasing things like Noble Knights. Noble Knights also were not meta for the entirety of the time they were out until their structure deck came out. So this idea that I'm investing for the future is just not a good one. I even went on Reddit when the mini and structure were announced, and so many people were like, oh, I just wasted my dream ticket on DDD stuff because I knew he was coming this month and I thought it'd be a good investment. No. Do not invest for the future. I know that Photons have 1 million support cards, but don't invest, because there's a good chance it might come in a structure. And even if it doesn't, by the time we do get support, that box may be in the 50% off gem sale. They may have a special sale that goes on for it, and it'll just end up being cheaper. So unless you're purchasing a meme deck to play for fun right now, do not do it for the future, especially if it's an anime deck. They'll always end up making it a little bit cheaper to get more sales out of it. Number 2, using dream tickets on random cards. I used to do this all the time. I have an amazing video up on the channel right now that is blowing up like crazy. I'll definitely link it in the description if you stumble on this video but haven't seen that one. Save your dream tickets and use them properly. It is so important that you do this because dream tickets can end up saving you literally hundreds of dollars if spent right, and thousands of gems. There really isn't much more to say than that. Do not randomly spend your dream ticket. And then finally, number 1 new player mistake. Number 1 thing I wish I knew coming in as a new player: 1 copy structure decks. This is like one of the worst things you can do currently in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I've seen so many people go in, buy 1 purchase of Red Eyes, the big offender, right? 1 copy of Red Eyes, 1 copy of Neos, 1 copy of Blue Eyes, 1 copy of Noble Knights, and try to make a deck out of that. And it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. The deck that you end up getting is so scuffed. None of the cards end up being used for the future. And just in general, most of the structures are not worth purchasing at 1. There are a few exceptions. Some of the hero ones are kind of nice for like some farm deck purposes, but even those, there are new free-to-play alternatives now in the game that are present that you don't require that. So there's just no reason to go into them at this point. So do not purchase 1 copy of structure decks. If you are going in for structure deck, in your mind, plan to make 3. If not, it's not even worth doing it whatsoever. And that's pretty much it. Those are the 10 things I wish I knew before I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. 10 things I kept in mind. 10 common new player mistakes, however you want to word it. What were your common things that you messed up, things that you wish you knew before coming into Duel Links? Leave it down in the comments if you have any interesting stories of you purchasing YouTube decks that you didn't mean to, or spending your dream tickets accidentally. If you have any funny stories, put them down in the comments. I'll like the ones that that make me laugh, or maybe I'll pin one if it's got some good advice in it. But that's gonna be it from me. Like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how it is. Join the Discord, join the tournaments. I love you all. Peace out. Till next time.